Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am the Inconsequential Runner, joined here with Coach Mark. Hello, Coach Mark. Welcome back.
Hi, Darcy. Yeah, first one of the year.
First one of the year, 2024. I'm not going to say Happy New Year, and I'll tell you why. Someone said it to me today. It's February. Look, let's start a rule. Happy New Year applies for the first 14 days. And if you feel like you need to say it after 14 days, you're not training enough, because 14 days of training is enough for you to think, man, I'm right into this new year. 5% of the year, 14 days, that's it. So anyone, if you for those watching, adopt that rule, the 14-day
I
rule.
like it.
I think, there we go. That's me pushing it, because I don't think there's a rule. No one knows. Anyway, let's get into some good stuff. Coach Mark, I've done some reading over the festive period, and I came across, and people know this name, but I came across Arthur Lydiard in his book. And those that know Arthur Lydiard, those that don't, look, Google him. Absolutely instrumental in terms of what he did to change running and to reach the masses. That's all I'll say. Massive guy. Kiwi, proud Kiwi. But got his book. This was printed in 1962 and reprinted in 1963. And that was after the success he had with Halberg and Snell winning golds. Now, the question I've got for you, Coach Mark, is this. This book is 62 years old, but I still, not 62 years old, it was printed in 62. Actually, do you know what?
It is 62 years old.
Yeah. 62 to 62, you end up with 124. Brilliant.
Yeah,
this is why we don't need to edit these, Coach Mark. We do them all in one take because we get them perfect. This book is 62 years old, as we've just discovered, but people still refer to Arthur Lydiard's principle. So, Coach Mark, the question I've got for you is not, is his principles still valid? They are, but the question I've got for you is, how valid are they? What percentage of his principles still last today in some form in terms of the way we do our coaching? Coach Mark, what do you think in terms of Arthur Lydiard's principles?
Look, I think that they're certainly relevant today, and we all actually, without even realizing it, we all use his principles to some extent. To sort of summarize really, really quickly, because I'd rather you actually read the book. It's a great book. So. But to summarize, the whole foundation of Lydiard was endurance. So endurance is the key. If you build up enough endurance, you are able to train harder. You're able to train faster when it matters. You're able to recover quicker. And everything builds from that. You're able to last the season. You don't get as injured. These are all things he found. He tried it out on himself. He did huge distances and scaled it down, then built it up, and he came to the conclusion, yeah, endurance is the key.
So when we say endurance, and I know I'm going to ask something really basic here, but I want to make sure it's really clear in my head. When I hear endurance, it's just the ability to run extended lengths of time. That's what we're talking about when we talk about endurance.
That's right.
One thing he did talk about in the book, and I read some other books about him, there were people that were running marathons back in the 60s, the 50s, even the 40s, and they were only training, I say only, between 40 and 60 sort of kilometers a week. And he turned it completely on its head. And there was a period of time he was running a marathon before and after work. He was doing plus 200-kilometer weeks, and that was unheard of. And so it's where that endurance sort of mindset came from, because he proved it. It made a massive difference, because he won marathons. He won the Auckland and he won the New Zealand champs. So people think of him as a coach, but he proved this as a runner. So, okay.
Yeah, that's right. So endurance is the key. So that the way he did an endurance, and then once you've got enough endurance, you then can bring in a few hills and to build strength and spring. And he used to do that as a strict block. And then they'd build speed. They'd have speed session. And what he found was that if you did enough endurance, you're able to handle the strength in the hills. If you did the hills, you then had enough the spring in the legs that you were able to translate that into better sessions when you started doing fast. And if you just went from running slow endurance to running fast. And he found that if you did all that, if you did the first two things, the last bit, the speed, you could actually develop that quite quickly. Yeah. And that's what initially surprised him. That with people used to do it, and people still do it. I see now they do it around the other way. They try and build the speed before the endurance, or they try and build the speed and the endurance together.
Right. And you're not an advocate of that, or you think there's some?
Well, yeah. Well, to a point.
Okay.
Because which is the thing. So bear in mind, this was New Zealand back in the 1960s, where there weren't many races. Nowhere near as many as there are now. So, and especially in New Zealand, down the other end of the world, they could have quite an uninterrupted endurance, sort of 10 weeks of endurance, and then a strength bit and then a speed bit. Yep. But nowadays, there's lots of races going on, you see. So, and this was put to him. I remember I actually went to watch him, see him talk, which was very inspirational. But that was put to him, what happened, I have lots of races in the winter and the summer, and what do I do? And he said, no, that's fine. And of course, you've got to tailor it to suit that. But the principles of his program is that you still focus on key things for each week. So say early on, so say you're getting into your program, early on, you want to build an endurance base first. You can still do some speed and hills, but the main focus is the endurance. Okay. Then as you shift, when your endurance gets up high enough, then you can maybe focus on more hill type sessions, and then you can focus more on speed sessions where your longer runs might be a little bit shorter and a little bit slower, because then you're thinking about races and recovering from them enough. So it's the same thing. You just need to make sure that you have a focus for each week, and you don't try and be all things in the week. You don't try and make this week your longest week, your fastest speed sessions, and a decent hill session, because one, you won't get the most out of your week than if you actually focus on one or two key components, and two, it's quite risky because your body probably isn't able to handle it.
Yeah, no, quite.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question, because it helps me embed in my mind, a certain rule or a certain principle. And that principle that you're advocating and that Arthur Lydiard advocated, which is you do your endurance first, and then you transition into your hill work. So what I'm going to ask you is why, if you can give me one reason why you do endurance before you do speed work, because of, and hearing this, that will sort of lock it in my head why we do it in that sort of order in a general sense. I know there's a lot of it depends, but what would be one of the biggest reasons why we do endurance before we do speed work? Hill, excuse me. Yep,
but because endurance is aerobic, so we're able to breathe in oxygen as we're doing it. It builds us up. There's no lactic acid or anaerobic stuff that's tearing us down. So we're actually building our body up. We make our body more robust.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that does two things. It makes our leg muscles more robust, so we can handle the hills better when we come to do it. But we also, our heart and lungs are also stronger, so we're able to do a better session when we come to the hills.
Right. Perfect.
So that's why, it's like the foundation of a house. You got that's the bottom bit.
Yeah.
And in fact, I know people, if that's all they did, if they just started running and all they did was easy running and built that up, they get huge gains from that. In fact, they get more gains from that than if they tried to do 2 speed work sessions and just one short easy run in the week, because I'm thinking, well, I need to get my park run time down, so I need to run fast. Yeah, yeah.
No.
So
Yeah, I think we've
he
got
used to
some
often
examples
pull
of that
people
as well.
around it.
Sorry,
Was
say
that-
again?
Oh, he used to often have to explain to people who, you know, who were saying, oh, but I don't want to run slow, I want to run fast. And he'd have to sort of explain to them, you know, you got to run slow to run fast to be, you know, later on down the track.
Yeah.
The other thing he used to preach a lot was patience, and that's really is a virtue in running. That things do take time, and if they take time, you get better results. Yeah.
Yeah, look, we've got a number of runners in our club, proof is in the pudding, where they haven't done any speed work. They've just upped their kilometers. So basically they've upped the endurance, and now they're like, choom, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
It seems counterintuitive, but the speed just comes with endurance, even though they haven't done the speed work. They're just running more kilometers, and I suppose that word robust comes in. They're just way more robust and resilient for speed.
I used to race over 800 meters, and I'd always do a Harrier season. If I did a good Harrier season, and I was never a natural at Harriers, but if I ever did a good Harrier season, I always hit the track season in great shape, even if I hadn't done that specific type of speed work. But I remember one year I wasn't able to do a Harrier season. I was injured, and I thought, well, that's all right. I'll just work on my speed. I'm going to do 1 and 200 meters and really get my speed down, and that'll be fine. You know, wasn't the same. I wasn't as quick. Bizarrely, not over 800 meters. I was quicker over 200 meters, but not over 800 meters. I couldn't last. So I've tried it myself. It definitely works. Definitely works.
In terms of endurance, everyone talks about the long run. I was about to say the Sunday run, because for me the Sunday run's always the long run. I think for most people it's maybe, you know, the lazy Sunday, especially if we've got families, then we can get the long run in while they're still in bed. You know, it just seems to work, right? Anyway, so when we talk about endurance, I imagine it's still not equal during the week. We still have that long run on Saturday or Sunday, whatever it is. The long run's really important.
Yeah,
stands out.
Yes. So that was the other thing he worked out in himself, because his thing was 100 miles a week. He worked out was the thing. So he initially tried doing it evenly. You know, split 100 miles a week into even each day. But he found that didn't work. So he thought, well, if I do longer one day, shorter the other day, and then one very long one in the weekend, and it was, you know, a Saturday or Sunday was the day for that. And that basically set for this is still going on. I mean, you just look out on a Sunday and people meet up, they do their long Sunday run. Often don't worry about the pace, getting out, enjoying the scenery, but that should be the staple, really, of almost all throughout your year. If you just kept that going, that would just maintain that level of endurance, and your form isn't going to drop off. You're gonna keep that robustness. Yeah.
Is there a rule we could apply to that? And the answer might be yes, might be no, or it depends. Where if you're looking to go fast at a 5K race, then your long run would probably be about this much. But if you're looking to do half marathons, then your long run relatively is going to be about this much. Or is there no sort of rule like that? Is there a flavor you can give, maybe for anyone who's watching this that is thinking, hey, I want to get fast at my park run, and say they have been running for a year already, so you know they've got past, their body's already getting fairly resilient or robust. What should they be looking at either now, or something that they can work to that would be an appropriate length long run for 5K, maybe for 10K, and maybe for half marathon?
Yeah, I would say 5K and 10K about the same.
Okay.
I would say, you know, an hour and a half at least, with the odd one of 2 hours. It's always good if, you know, even once every 4 weeks or once every 6 weeks, even you did 2 hours, and then an hour and a half was your ticking over one. Right. If you're doing a half marathon, your long easy run should really be longer than you would be racing in the half marathon. You know, if you're aiming to run a half marathon for time, you really need to be able to run for that amount of time, or actually longer than that, ideally, easy. yeah, otherwise you can't really hope to perform at your best running. But I would say as a rule of thumb, 2 hours is a very good one. And his guys didn't do a lot over 2 hours. The thing to bear in mind, so he used to talk about 100 miles a week, but his guys were running 6-minute miling. They were averaging 6-minute miling. So they started off, easy, but as they got fitter and fitter and fitter, without even, they're still running aerobically, so they're not racing this.
Yeah.
They'd run 6-minute miling. And he was forced to change how he kind of reported what to do, because he went solely by distance. And
Yes.
he was talking at a workshop, and an older woman put her hand up and said, "Oh, look, how important is it that I do 100 miles? Because it's taken me quite a long time to do this." And she was running 12-minute miling, so this was taking her 20 hours. So basically, he amended it. So he said 10 hours is the equivalent of 100 miles a week.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, most of us don't do anywhere near 100 miles a week. And even ones like Peter Snell, he admitted that he really managed to get up to there because he was a shorter track runner. But the principle still applies, getting insufficient endurance. It obviously doesn't have to be 100 miles a week, but it's getting that endurance base. Everything goes from that. And the other thing, if I can just say, is people often used to say to him, I'm sorry, I just can't run long. I can't run that as long as you say. And he said, well, it's because you're running too fast. Yeah. And I tell it to people all the time. They say, I can't run that fast. We'll just run slow, run slower and walk if necessary. And then once you get the distance, then you're able to go a little bit quicker, a little bit quicker, a little bit quicker. But rather, again, you shouldn't be forcing the pace when you're trying to get your mileage up. So that's a key Lydiard principle.
Yeah, look, and this, I think, when I started using you as my coach, that was the big change that really helped in terms of not talking about distance, but talking about time. Because when it's distance, say, go out for your long run being 25K, I'd be like, oh, I've only got a couple of hours, I better go a bit faster or something like that. But when 2 hours, then it doesn't matter on the speed, it's 2 hours. I fit in the 2-hour block, all good, and I can run slow, but it's still 2 hours. And I think it puts you in the right mindset. So what I will say is, and to wrap this up, and thank you for that, Coach Mark, that was super insightful. If anyone's watching this and you're struggling to do the math yourself, don't get a good coach. Coach Mark's details are in the show notes. So just click on the drop down under this video here. And if you want to contact Coach Mark, feel free to reach out to Coach Mark. Coach Mark, thank you so much for your insights. As always, appreciate them. I learn a lot from them. I know those that watch the videos learn a lot too, because people come up to me and they go, hey, Coach Mark, keep asking them questions. So people love it. So Coach Mark, thanks again for joining us. And I know we've got you again soon with another question and what we'll be covering off. Oh, running in heat, which is so important.
Pretty topical.
Hemisphere at the moment in the middle of summer. Everything's just, so let's talk about running in heat and what we can do to make life easier around that. Coach Mark, thank you so much. Those that are watching, thank you for making it to the end. You know the story. If you like the video, hit like. We love it when you do. It's a nice little sort of payback for us. We enjoy that. Of course, feel free to subscribe and share the video with any of your running buddies. If you have a question you want me to ask Coach Mark, just throw it in the comments. And both Coach Mark and I pick that up, and we'll make that a question for one of our videos. Thank you very much for watching. Coach Mark, thanks so much for your insights.
Always a pleasure.